Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over the Dawn of X era of X-Men comics, and we pick up with Wolverine #1. Again, because the reason why when Marvel first released the Wolverine book, there were two different stories. Of course, the first one was Wolverine fighting against the Pale Girl, and that was the first story in Wolverine #1. And then after you read that story, you go on and read Wolverine #2 and #3. But the second story, it deals with Wolverine dealing with a different problem. And of course, after this book, we move on to Wolverine #4 and #5. I have no idea why Marvel did that, but hey, it's Marvel Comics. Now, either way, we do pick up with Wolverine. And right now, you have Wolverine realizing that when it comes to Krakoa, it's always changing. It's always going to be different. And time is different now when it comes to the X-Men, because for the X-Men, they had a lot of enemies. And now, most of their enemies live with them on Krakoa. And you have Wolverine say it's weird to walk past Apocalypse and be like, oh yeah, he's on our side now. He has changed. And so it's Wolverine trying to get used to the idea that now villains are good. They're allies. But of course, that is the moment someone walks through a Krakoan gate. And when they do, it's one of Wolverine's worst enemies. And that is Wolverine saying, I can possibly let go anybody else who I fight against to come join us on this island. But there's one person I can never forgive. And that one person is Omega Red. Now, when it comes to Omega Red and Wolverine, they have a very long history with one another. And I could sit down and explain the whole history with one another, but honestly, it's not important for this storyline at all. But when it comes to Omega Red, there are some things you need to know. So Omega Red first appeared back in X-Men #4, back in 1991, I want to say. But either way though, Omega Red, he was kind of forced to join the Russia Super Soldier program, where of course they did give him cybernetic parts. But then he was also given carbonadium. Now carbonadium is just kind of like an off-brand version of adamantium. Of course, adamantium is what Wolverine's bones are covered in. But Omega Red, again having carbonadium, is a different kind of metal. Now, carbonadium, again, is an off-brand version of adamantium. It's still a great offensive weapon, but with carbonadium being inside Omega Red, it is slowly poisoning him. And so with that, he has to drain life energy over and over again to stay alive, which does work with Omega Red because he is a killer, a crazy killer. Honestly, I say sometimes he's worse than old school Sabretooth. But either way though, you do have Omega Red coming to Wolverine on Krakoa for help. Now Wolverine, he wants to kill Omega Red, but then you have Magneto use his powers to stop Wolverine, to show Wolverine, look at Omega Red. This dude is badly injured, which means that something so powerful was able to do damage to him. That is not normal. And so with that, I'm going to send you through the gate where Omega Red came from to learn what in the world had attacked him. And you have Magneto just pick up Wolverine and throw him through the gate. Now, when Wolverine goes through the gate, he arrives in Paris. Now, as soon as he arrives in Paris, he does look around for some clues. And of course, the clues he finds are a bunch of puddles of blood, which of course leads him over to a car. And of course, again, the trunk of the car. Now, when he opens that trunk up, what he finds inside is a bunch of dead bodies. Now, these dead bodies, they have been broken up in so many different ways to fit inside the trunk of the car. Now, you do have one guy or one dead body or one person who is still alive in that trunk actually reach out for Wolverine. Now, this person tries to talk to Wolverine, but he dies in Wolverine's arm. And so with that guy's death, is Wolverine saying, listen, I hate Omega Red with a lot of passion, but I know something went down to badly injure him, and of course now all these dead bodies in the trunk of this car is even more concerning. Now, getting back over to COPPA, we do see Magneto right now talking to Dr. Reyes. Now, Dr. Reyes is one of those mutants who do help to heal mutants who have been badly injured. And right now, her new patient is Omega Red. Now, you do have Wolverine arrive, and Wolverine is going to tell Magneto what he saw, but at the same time, it's still Wolverine saying that Omega Red can't stay here. And remember, Wolverine at the very beginning of the storyline, he was saying how mutants can change. If they were bad, they could change. But because how messed up Omega Red is and the things he has done in the past, it's Wolverine saying, no, I do not want him here at all. This man will mess everything up for us. Send him away. But again, it's Magneto saying, we are a brand new mutant nation. And we told you guys that we are going to welcome every kind of mutant to our new nation. And that includes Omega Red. Now, you do have Magneto say, listen, you are part of X-Force. Your goal is to deal with different problems that we could face down the road, which means that if something had happened to Omega Red, this can come back around to bite us in the butt. So with you being the leader of X-Force, deal with this problem now. And that is in order because Magneto is part of the Quiet Council. Now, you do have Wolverine actually go over to Omega Red. And when he does, it does seem like at first Wolverine and Omega Red are going to have a long conversation. But this is Wolverine saying, I'm supposed to interrogate you. But at the same time, I don't want to. So let's hurry this up. What happened to you? And you have Omega Red say, you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm badly injured. I don't feel like talking, but I will tell you one thing, to go back to Paris and go to one particular place called King's Abilette D. And I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, that name that Omega Red gave over to Wolverine was a name to a particular bar in Paris. Now, when Wolverine gets there, he does run into some random young lady who's right now offering to sell flowers to him. And of course, Wolverine declines and he goes into the bar. Now, with that, you do have the girl realize what bar he just went inside to. And she says that Wolverine might not make it out of there alive. But with that being said, as soon as Wolverine walks down the staircase, he sits down, he tries to order a drink, he realized that something is off. At first, he realized that everyone in this bar right now is looking at him. And so with that, he's kind of like, the vibe is really going off right now. What is about to go down? But that is the moment he comes to find out that his drink was poison. And so Wolverine is basically knocked out thanks to the drink that he just had. Now, when Wolverine wakes up, he is surrounded by a bunch of vampires, and he's also tied up as well. Now, with that being said, we can now tell where this story is going to go. Is Wolverine fighting against a bunch of vampires, but sooner or later, he's gonna fight Dracula. He has to fight Dracula. Now, with that being said though, you do have the vampires tell Wolverine why they have him tied up and what they are going to do next, which is drink his blood. Because when it comes to Wolverine's blood, it is special. Also because he is a mutant. Now, with that being said, right when the vampires are about to drink his blood, that is the moment you do have Wolverine begin the process of trying to kill some of the vampires, but he's also saved by the girl from earlier who was selling flowers, because she is apparently some kind of vampire hunter. Now, right after she does save Wolverine, she kind of like, okay, listen, I am a professional vampire hunter. You are not. So you should go back home to your mutant nation and let me handle this situation that is going on with the vampires in this town and possibly across the world. Now you do have Wolverine actually go back over to see Omega Red, but when he does, remember, Wolverine still does not trust Omega Red, and so now he's even more upset at Omega Red for not telling him about what is going on in Paris, which is the vampires. But you have Omega Red say, listen man, I sent you out there to find the truth and you did. My job is done. But of course, it's Wolverine continuing to say, we cannot trust you because you are a killer. Now, you do have Omega Red say, I do not kill humans anymore. I only kill animals. And the reason why, because Omega Red is apparently trying to change. Now remember, when it comes to Omega Red, with the carbonadium in his body, he has to constantly kill to absorb life energy to stay alive. And so he says he no longer kills humans, he only kills animals. Now, you didn't have Omega Red tell Wolverine a story about someone named St. Julian. Now, St. Julian was a good person, but then he heard a prophecy, and the prophecy said that St. Julian would kill his parents. And so, as soon as he heard that, he moved away as a way to protect his parents. But because his parents loved him so much, they continued to look for him over the years. Decades passed, and when they finally found their son, they were so old and fragile, they died right in his arms. And so basically, St. Julian had completed the prophecy, even though he was trying to stop it. But then you have Omega Red say you need to go back to Paris to deal with that problem, but to also learn more about St. Julian. Now you do have Wolverine go back over to Paris, where he does go over to the Church of St. Julian. Now when he gets there, he does run into, of course, the same girl we saw earlier that is a vampire hunter. And she tells Wolverine her name is Louise. And with that name, she's also a vampire hunter for an organization known as the Night Guard. Now, where her telling Wolverine that is her kind of saying, I'm trusting you to not go out there and screw me over, but at the same time, I'm trusting you that you could possibly help me down the road to deal with this vampire problem. Now, you do have Wolverine ask to kind of help her hunt more vampires down to learn more about what's happening right now in Paris, but at the same time, he's hoping to learn more about St. Julian from Louise. But right when he asks her, that is the moment he sets a trap and they fall through the ground into a lower level. Now, when Wolverine and Louise are able to get back up and to look around, they realize that they are surrounded by a bunch of vampires, which means that Wolverine now must fight against these vampires with Louise. And so he does kill a few more of them, but that is the moment he comes to find out that Louise is now being held hostage. And so now Wolverine must stop in his track before they actually do kill Louise off. And you have Wolverine ask the vampires, what do you want? And they said, we want your blood. Like, we want your blood, Wolverine, not hers, yours. And so with that, they begin the process of actually attacking Wolverine one more time to hopefully get his blood. And a lot of them were able to get a few chunks of Wolverine, and then they all just flew away. Now you do have Louise run over to Wolverine to make sure that he is okay. And so she runs over there to find out that he has a healing factor, which means that even though the vampires did bit him, there's no way that he could possibly turn into a vampire. And matter of fact, any kind of other injuries that he had received from the vampires will go away in a matter of seconds. But then you have Louise tell Wolverine that she knew that he'll be okay, but there is a bigger problem. And the problem is, though, that the vampires had the edge over Wolverine and Louise. And so with that, they should have taken us down, but they didn't. As soon as they were able to get your blood, they left. And most likely, they took their blood to their king. And their king, of course, is, well, I said earlier, Dracula. Now we do see that some time has passed by, and with that time passing by, we come to find out Omega Red, he's okay again. And on top of that, he now has the ability to walk around Krakoa for free and also use any gates he wants to use. And so we see him go back over to Paris, where of course he does meet up with Dracula. And so Omega Red is working with Dracula. Now the reason why Omega Red is doing this because Dracula has something that could possibly help Omega Red out. Something to finally get rid of that poison in his body. And so that is why he's helping Dracula. And of course you do have Dracula say, listen, even though our deal is done, you could continue to kill for us. So why not join us? And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.